Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel and welcome to a Books Beside My Bed video. For those of you who are new here, I film one of these videos every week where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. For those of you who are very familiar with this, welcome back and apologies that this is late. If you've been following along on my channel for a little while, you know that I will have just gotten back from holidays. In fact, I didn't get home until midnight last night. The plane got in at 20 to 12 and it was a long journey, and I didn't even get back to my apartment until today, where I'm filming this and hopefully uploading what will probably be one of 2 Books Beside My Bed videos for the last week, because I did read 14 books because beach holiday, I did pretty much nothing but read, which is not really true, but I read a lot because I had a lot of time sitting by the pool or on the beach and it was just delightful. For those who don't follow me on Instagram, I have been in Palm Cove, which is in far north Queensland. It is a lovely place. I've never been there before. I went with my family. It was wonderful and I would go back in a heartbeat, and I am not a beach person, but even I liked it. I took some amazing photos, which I've been sharing on Insta stories, so that's all happening. But we're here to talk about the books. I was participating in and finishing 2 readathons during the last week. That was Tome Infinity and Beyond round 3 and the Contemporaryathon round 5. So there's a lot of things to talk about. It is my reading week from the 22nd until the 30th of September. I did pull it into Monday just because I didn't go home and I didn't have time to film this video until the 1st of October. Because it is also the end of month Books Beside My Bed video, I will also have my monthly stats. I will probably put them in the second part of this video in case you're wondering where they are. I read 14 books this week. Started a 15th and DNF'd a 16th. 13 of those books were adult books, 1 was middle grade. I read a total of 4,560 pages and my yearly reading total is up to 283 books. My DNF was The City in the Middle of the Night by Charlie Jane Anders, which was really disappointing for me because I was looking forward to reading this book, and it was the Team Supernatural pick for Tome Infinity and Beyond, which was one of the books that Sam and I picked. Sam from Thoughts on Tomes has just put out a video talking about her thoughts on it. She actually did finish the book, but I 100% agree with everything that she said, except she got to the end, whereas I got 100 pages in and had to put the book down just because I felt it was really slow and I couldn't actually tell what the author was trying to say or to do 100 pages in, and being on holiday, it was really hard to read something that I just couldn't get into. So I will leave a link somewhere either down below or on the screen to Sam's video. Please go and check it out because she is a lot more articulate than I am about the book. I can't even tell you what it's about because it has just completely evaded me. But I was really disappointed that I didn't like it. I actually left it in Palm Cove at our apartments. They had a little bookshelf there for people to leave and take books. So I left it there for someone else and hopefully they will enjoy it. I'm also currently reading Force of Nature by Jane Harper, which is the second book in the Aaron Falk series, and I will talk a little bit about the first one in a moment. The first book that I read this week was The Book of the Phoenix by Nnedi Okorafor. This was a 2016 release from Hodder and Stoughton and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It is a prequel to a series and I've forgotten what the series name is. I read it for Tome Infinity and Beyond. It was my pick for the African continent. Nnedi Okorafor I think is an American author, but she has, I think is it Nigerian? A Nigerian background, so that's why I picked it for that book, and it does feature characters quite heavily in Africa. It is a science fiction dystopian story about a woman called Phoenix who was born and raised in Tower 7 along with a whole lot of other people with weird and strange abilities, and it's all about genetic modification and a world where people control these individuals who have these powers. Phoenix has a really good friend in the tower, Saeed, and then one day she finds out that he has died overnight and the general consensus is that he has killed himself, and she starts to question her place in this tower where previously she's never really thought about it too much. She's been quite happy where she is and she trusts all the people who are working with her. But once Saeed dies, she really sort of starts breaking away and seeing that things are maybe not what they seem, and it prompts her on this massive journey to bring down the towers and to uncover the truth. And there's a lot more involved in it. It's a little short book, but it was quite an in-depth long story to actually read. It was very interesting and I'm glad I read it. Then on the plane flying from Melbourne to Brisbane and then Brisbane to Cairns, I read The Dry by Jane Harper. I read this for the Contemporaryathon. It was my dark, hard-hitting contemporary. It is a mystery crime book, so it still fits into that contemporary genre. It's set in the current day. As I said before, it is book 1 in the Aaron Falk series, and it was first published in 2016 by Macmillan Australia, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Fun story about this particular book. My sister and I started reading it at exactly the same time in the airport. I did beat her to read it though. It took her a couple of days. I finished it by the time I got to Cairns because what else was I going to do? I was stuck in a plane for essentially 4 hours. This story is about Aaron Falk, who is a federal police officer. He works in the fraud department. Essentially, he follows money. He goes home for the funeral of one of his childhood friends, but his friend has been accused of killing his family and then killing himself. So it's a very tense sort of atmosphere. But the parents of Falk's friend don't believe that he killed himself, and so they ask him to look into it, and so he does, just as a favor and not as a federal police officer. He works alongside the local police, and then sort of they begin to discover that things are maybe not quite what they seem. Alongside this is a mystery that occurred when Falk was a teenager, and the mysterious death of one of the teenage girls that he knew. And as he's sort of investigating the contemporary murder, he is also finding out and reliving what happened in the past. Anyway, I absolutely loved the book, and I then decided to purchase Force of Nature, which I didn't get a chance to read while I was on holidays, but I did start reading it back on the plane. Coincidentally, also at the same time that my mother started reading the book, because after my sister and I read The Dry, my mother read The Dry, and then my sister wanted me to pick up Force of Nature, so we found a bookstore in Port Douglas and I bought her The Force of Nature, and she started reading that. She's actually finished it. I was in the midst of all my readathons, and then my mother took the book off her, so we just had a big family read along while on holidays. It was great. Then I read Ida by Alison Evans. This was for the Tome Infinity Readathon, and this was for the Australia Oceania continent space of the world. Alison Evans is an Australian author. This was a 2016 release from Echo, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. This book was really interesting in terms of its concept, which is essentially about a girl called Ida who can consciously go back in time and change any decision that she's made. But basically what happens is it's sort of her interacting with all of those multiverse sort of worlds where you have a decision and you make one choice, she goes back and then she takes the other path. So she starts interacting with different versions of herself as sort of all these different versions of Ida collide. And then there's also this other shadowy organization that is designed to sort of stop entropy and things from happening, and they get involved. So like I said, really interesting in concept. In reality, I found it a little bit difficult to follow. I think it was because one of those books, I think probably because it's one of those books that probably required me to pay more attention, and being on holidays I was not paying a lot of attention, but still really interesting concept. I'm glad I finally read it, and I'm looking forward to trying some of Alison's other work. Then I read Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. This was for the Contemporaryathon. This was for the challenge to read a book with an illustrated cover. It is a 2019 release from Avon, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This book is everywhere at the moment. A lot of people are reading it. It is essentially like a new adult romance between Georgie, who has lived in her hometown her whole life. She's the youngest child in a close-knit family, and everyone else in the family has gone into the family business, which is sort of a renovation, interior design sort of company. But Georgie has struck out on her own, and she is a party clown, and she hosts parties for kids, but nobody ever really takes her seriously because she's always the baby of the family. And she's always had this crush on her older brother's best friend, Travis Ford, who left their hometown and went on to become quite a famous baseball player. But he's injured, and so his career is essentially over, and he comes home, and at the start of the book he's really down on his luck. He is very depressed, and Georgie walks in on behalf of everyone else and basically tells him to wake up by throwing a whole lot of old food at him, which was actually quite funny to read about. Anyway, as they go along, Travis starts to see Georgie as more than his best friend's younger sister, much to his horror, because he knows that it's not the greatest thing to do. And the two strike up a friendship, and then there is a situation that forces them to sort of consider taking on this fake dating trope. And the two of them agree to it with conditions, and then of course those conditions get broken, and this book is very, very steamy, very, very adult, and it was just a lot of fun. This was a holiday read, and I am so glad that I read it while I was on holidays because it was super quick and easy, and it was just enjoyable. The next book for the Contemporaryathon was Served Hot by Annabeth Albert. This is book 1 in the Portland Heat series. These are sort of novellas set in Portland, obviously. I read this for the Diverse Contemporary Challenge because this is a male romance. It was originally published in 2015 by Kensington, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It is the story of Robbie, who owns a coffee cart in sort of a busy business district area, and he has this crush on one of his customers, David, who comes in at the same time every day. They just sort of strike up a friendship and conversations, and Robbie isn't quite sure if David is gay or not, and in fact in David's past there is a very complicated relationship that causes problems for him when he considers new relationships. And so it's a very short little exploration of that. It was just fun, it was cute, it was easy to read. Robbie was an adorable character and I really enjoyed it. The last book that I'm going to talk about for part 1 of this video is Storm of Locusts by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is book 2 in the Sixth World series. I loved this book. This was my favorite book from the Tome Infinity and Beyond Round 3 readathon. It was my pick for North America. It is also a known voices book. Rebecca Roanhorse is Native American, I'm pretty sure. And this book and this series is full of Native American references. It is a futuristic dystopian book with these wonderful urban fantasy elements in it, and it is totally up my alley. Storm of Locusts was released in 2019 by Saga Press and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was the only 5-star read for the Tome Infinity and Beyond readathon, which prior to this I was feeling really flat on because a lot of the books I picked were just sort of okay for me, and I was saving this one for the end because I just wanted something to end the readathon on a high note, and this was definitely it. Being the second book, it's kind of hard to talk about the series itself, but essentially it is a dystopian world. There was a massive flood and it has basically left North America in sort of this very weird sort of place in that all the towns are run by whoever could grab control of them, and the main character Maggie lives inside a town that is quite tightly controlled, and there's a whole lot of different urban fantasy mythological characters and creatures that pop up into it from Native American traditions as a result. And in Storm of Locusts, Maggie is sort of dealing with the aftermath of the first book, where she finds herself sort of back in her home but without the friends that she made during that first book, and she quickly finds herself saddled with a protege that she feels obligated to take under her wing after a mission goes horribly wrong. And then she also finds out that Kai and Caleb, 2 characters that she was quite close with in the first book, have mysteriously disappeared / been kidnapped by this cult-like group, and she feels obligated to then also go and find them and track them down and bring them home. It was just delightfully entertaining, lots of action, really fun characters, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, so that is the end of part 1 of this Books Beside My Bed video. I'm hopefully going to get this up on Tuesday, and then I'm going to post the second part on Wednesday. I will leave links to the second video up on the screen once it is up so that you can check it out. If you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow with the second part of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.